Hi, I'm Ken Lammers. Welcome to Minor League Matters. And today we're going to talk about baseball's brand new logos. So let's get cracking. Okay, so unless you live under a log somewhere or keep your head down in the sand or just don't know anything about baseball whatsoever, you know that every year the minor leagues, there's some team that comes up with a new name or a new logo or a rebrand of its old logo, that sort of thing. And this year we have a number of teams that have come up with new brandings for themselves. Let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six brand new brands, names, and logos. We've got a couple of restarts of old teams, and so we're going to go over their logos again because they're kind of in the mix now again. And then we've got two that just reworked their logos. I did just like I did last year, or similar to what I did last year at least. I went through and I looked at them all, and I had 5 points of comparison. One is the name of the team. The second is the color scheme. The third is what is the logo going to look like on a hat? Is it going to be identifiable when you look at the hat? Will you know what it is? The fourth is the attractiveness of it, color scheme and logo and everything. And the fifth is, will you be able? Does the logo match with the name? Right? Is it readily identifiable with the name? And then I assigned 5 points to each one of those five issues and averaged them out and came up with this year's list of worst to best logo changes. So let's start out with the Tampa Tarpons. This is a name that was abandoned years back in favor of the Bradenton Marauders, Pittsburgh affiliate in the Florida State League, right? This is the Advanced A League. Tampa Tarpons, they bring up an old logo that had been used, like I said, from the Bradenton Marauders before the Bradenton Marauders became the Marauders, right? Previously, the Tampa Tarpons had been for 25, 26, some odd years, a long time, the Tampa Yankees, right? They bring back this logo and they bring back this name. First of all, the name's bad, right? It just lends itself to jokes about feminine hygiene products and all sorts of stuff like that. It's just a bad name. And on top of which, there's a whole bunch of people who don't know what a tarpon is, right? You can tell if you look closely enough at the logo to figure out it's a fish, that it's some sort of fish. But unless you're a commercial, not a commercial fisherman, but a sports fisherman, you probably don't know what one is, right? The color scheme. The color scheme's, silver and just not that great. Most of them that rely heavily on silver aren't all that good, but it's okay. It's average. I gave it a 3 there at that. The hat is just terrible. I looked up the hat online. It's the fish in a circle and tarpons written across it. It's just too busy, confusing. You cannot tell what it is at your initial glance, and it's a bad hat. And IDing it with the name, yeah, once you see the fish, if you're a sports fisherman in Florida, you can probably ID it with a name. So, that gave it at least an average, right? Because there's a lot of people that won't know what a tarpon is to ID it with a name. So the Tampa Tarpons ended up with a 2 average, and they're the worst logo this year. The second worst logo this year is the Pennsylvania Road Warriors. They are a team that gets trotted out by the Atlantic League, an independent league, every so often when it needs an extra team. The Pennsylvania Road Warriors really don't have a place to play from. They're a constantly on the road team, and they have the RW with a couple of tire tracks across it is their logo, right? You know, the name, it reflects what they are. It's not a bad name. It's an average name. The color scheme, red and black, usually a pretty strong color scheme, good basic colors, but it's just not so good here. Probably because nobody bothered to really make a good logo out of this. The hats, I'm going to say it's a 1. I can't find a picture of their hat anywhere. But it's just going to be an RW with a couple tracks across it. Attractiveness, not really. I mean, obviously nobody's putting a whole lot of work into this team. That all it's going to be is a road team. So there's not a whole lot of attractiveness put into the logo and everything. And of course, the IDing the logo with the name, I gave that a pretty high score because I think that you see RW with a couple a couple tracks across it, tire tracks across it, road warriors. Okay, that works, right? It'll work. But all in all, they only scored 2.4 as an average, so they were the second lowest team. Above them is a team that didn't rename itself, just kind of rebranded itself. That's the Hudson Valley Renegades. They've always kind of had or for last several years at least, have had a raccoon as their logo, right? Variations on that. The name is pretty good. Renegades is a pretty cool name. And the color scheme is kind of a blue-gray, blue-silver, black thing. Again, not the greatest color schemes. These rarely rate above a 3 when you've got that kind of color scheme. So that's about where it rates, the average. The hat, depending on what hat you look at. I looked at their hats online, and some of them are really kind of cool. They're like, from the nose up, the raccoon with the eyes popping out. The raccoon's face kind of shaded back, but the eyes popping out. That's a pretty cool logo, right? But then they do the other logos that you've got here, and they're just not all that. The ones with just the letters and that sort of thing, they aren't so hot. But the raccoon logos are pretty good. And the attractiveness, well, the raccoons are fairly attractive. The logo where it's the raccoons, when it's not the raccoon, it's not all that, right? It's not so great. So it kind of balances out to average. IDing the logo with the name, it doesn't track. Renegades and raccoons, it doesn't track. I mean, it's a kind of a cool logo and everything, but it doesn't match. So that got a pretty low score. They ended up with a 2.8 overall. Above the Hudson Valley Renegades is the Gwinnett Stripers. Now that's a new name and a new logo for the Gwinnett Braves, right? The Gwinnett Braves got pulled out of Richmond when the Atlanta Braves, who owned them outright, couldn't blackmail the city of Richmond into building them a new stadium. And then they moved to Gwinnett and just pretty much flopped, right? Poor people of Gwinnett are on the hook for ever how much money they had to spend on this, and it gone nowhere for them, right? Because, right down the road, 45 minutes away, was the Atlanta Braves. So why would you go watch their AAA team when you could go watch the mothership, right? Made no sense. And as I understand it, and I'm not sure exactly where they built the new Atlanta stadium, but it apparently is closer to Gwinnett than it was before. Maybe, I'm not sure. But in any event, they've renamed the Gwinnett Braves to the Gwinnett Stripers. The name is kind of a 3. It's just stripers. I know what they're going for, striped bass, but you have to be a fisherman. Again, you have to be a fisherman to get it. And there's going to be a whole lot of people out there who don't get that. And the color scheme, the green and red color scheme is pretty decent. It's about average, maybe a little bit average plus. The hats work, right? They've got 2 or 3 different brands with the hats. The fish on the hat, the fish about to take the lure with a baseball. It's a pretty good logo. I kind of wish they hadn't put the hook on the ball on that and just had the fish. but it's still a pretty good logo. And all the hats that they had up, or most of the hats they had up, were pretty decent. Then we have name, identification, or attractiveness. Well, okay, attractiveness. This is the best fish logo I've ever seen. It just is. So they've done a pretty good job there. It looks kind of aggressive. It's kind of cool. It's a good fish logo, which is saying a lot because most of the fish logos really suck, right? They're really pretty bad, horrible. The Tarpons, the Blue Wahoos, they're just bad logos. And this one's worked out pretty well. ID, IDing the logo with the name. I gotta admit it. If I look at this, I see the Gwinnett bass. Yeah, I know it's supposed to be striped bass, and and if you can make that jump, that's fine. But it's not an immediate identification. It's really not that great of a name for them, but they chose this. Don't know why they chose this, and they have a pretty good logo for it. So maybe it'll work for them. I hope it will. In the end, they averaged 3, which is dead smack in the middle of a 1 to 5 scale. So not too bad. Oh, by the way, the Gwinnett Stripers are AAA Indian International League. The Martinez Clippers, they are in the Pacific Association, brand new team in the Pacific Association. As you can see here, it's kind of a interesting logo. A wheel for a ship, and an M in the middle with pinstripes, and around the side, a good portion of the wheel in there is is a C standing for the Clippers. It's a pretty good logo. The name's okay, pretty decent. I mean, there are other teams named Clippers. It's out there. The color scheme, yeah, looks pretty decent, about average. It's okay. The hat, I think although I couldn't find a hat of theirs, I think that this logo will play pretty well on a hat. I think it's going to do okay. Actually, probably better than okay. The wheel, the ship wheel is going to look pretty unique, and I think it'll be a good hat. Attractiveness, yeah, it's a fairly attractive, average attractiveness logo. It's good. ID with the name, yeah, I mean, unless you're going to put a ship on it, you can't really get much better than a Clipper, than the wheel that moves the ship or steers the ship. So in the end, the Martinez Clippers, they got a 3.2. Directly above the Martinez Clippers is the Chicago Dogs. Now, the Chicago Dogs have been doing their best to make a big splash. They are a new team in the Chicago area, Rosemont, actually, I think, which I think is a suburb of Chicago, that is going to be a part of the American Association of Independent Baseball, which means they are an independent league team. They have chosen this logo, which is a hot dog. That's a pretty good play on it. And Chicago is supposed to be famous for hot dogs. And they've used all the colors from the Chicago flag and the stars and the whole 9 yards, right? And that's why it's kind of this washed out blue and everything. It's not like they're trying to copy the Cubs. They're trying to copy Chicago's flag, right? The flag of the city. So the name is okay. It's kind of cutesy and all that. I think they're going to regret it after a while, but for now, it's pretty good. Pretty much dead average. The color scheme, the light blue and the red and the light red, again, not the greatest color scheme in the world, but where it's at, it plays well with Chicago, so at least dead average. The hat, which is going to have this logo on it, you'll be able to recognize what this hat is. It'll have a hot dog on it and be blue and red. Yeah, okay, that's pretty much dead average too. Attractiveness, I get why you would go with this color scheme and all that, and why they went with the logo and everything. It's not bold. It's not something that jumps out at you. It's kind of a little bit gimmicky, but it's okay. It's good enough. It's average again, right? And IDing with a name, you just can't ID much better with a name than this is, and I pretty much gave this the most you could get. I gave it a 5 out of 5 for IDing with a name. Chicago, all the colors, the flag, and dogs, hot dog. I mean, it just fits, right? It's bang on. So that brought them up a bit, and Chicago dogs were a 3.4. Above the Chicago dogs are the Greenville Reds. Now, the Greenville Reds, as you can see here, really have kind of been limited on what they did. They took the Cincinnati Reds logo and they put the Green Bay Packer bar across it, and there you've got it, Greenville Reds. And then they took Mr. Redlegs and they put a coonskin cap on his head, and there you go. There's Mr. Redlegs for the Greenville Reds, right? Now, as far as name goes, it's a good, solid name because it's the Reds, right? All that the Appalachian League teams ever do. This is an Appalachian Rookie League team, by the way, brand new. All the Appalachian Rookie League teams do is take the mothership's name. It's a solid name, easily identifiable, everything. So it scored well. The color scheme's going to be red. Kind of disappointing here. The Reds could have played with all sorts of things here with green and red. I don't think they're going to do that because they don't seem to be able to get their act together that well this year, but it's a possibility to play with in the future. So, solid color scheme with the Cincinnati Reds, the hat, it's going to be solid. I mean, it'll be the C logo or the G logo, which should work out pretty well. Dead bang average. Attractiveness. The Reds colors are good colors. That's why they've stood up so long in Cincinnati. And it's going to be okay. At least average, probably a little bit plus. And IDing IDing the logo with a name, it's a G in the format of the Reds, in the Cincinnati Reds format. ID well. Not quite as well as Chicago Dogs, but it'll ID well, a 4, right? This also was a 3.4. I think that the Greenville Reds logo is just a little bit better than the Chicago Dogs. That's why they got ranked a little bit higher. And I think it'll be a stronger logo because of its attachment to the mothership and everything. So it got a little bit higher ranking in my, I bumped it up. Then we get the Napa Silverbacks, the Napa Silverados. The Napa Silverados are in the Pacific Association, independent baseball, and the name is solid 3, I'm sure it is tied with what history of the land there and everything, but it's a solid 3. The color scheme, kind of this, red, silver, black thing, it's a good color scheme, a little bit above average, I think, and so I gave it a little bit bump there. The hat is, I haven't seen the hat so much, but it's dead bang, simple S on the hat, should be easily identifiable. It's going to be a good logo on a hat. The attractiveness, it looks like fairly attractive colors, and so I'm average, maybe a little bit above average. And ID the logo with a name, I think that's going to work pretty well with a silver S and, Silverados. So I gave it an above average score. And the Napa Silverados scored a 3.4 as well. I think their logo is probably a little bit better than the Greenville Reds, so that's why they got above the Greenville Reds. Next, we get to the Augusta Green Jackets. The Augusta Green Jackets are a rebrand, not a rename, right? They are a single A team down in the South Atlantic League, so but they've redone their whole logo and everything. Used to be they were just a green. It was just a yellow jacket with a green jacket on it, right? Because of Augusta, right? And it made sense. It's a pretty decent logo. The new logo, the name still makes sense. The Augusta Green Jackets is a really good name considering where they're at and the history of Augusta and everything, right? Works really well. So the name's good. It's above average. The color scheme, the green and the black, works. It's a good, strong, bold color scheme. It's pretty decent. What will all this look like on a hat? Well, on a hat you can see. Now I went and looked at their hats. Their hats are going to have the old-fashioned hat they had for which is just the face of the the face of the Hornet or the Green Jacket. And then they're going to have another one, which is the new Green Jacket logo, right? The new Green Jacket, which is okay, except for this silly looking hat on its head, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yes, I understand it's a Scottish hat, et cetera, et cetera. You have to look and think about it. If you have to look and think about it, it doesn't work. So it's not a good thing. Um, the attractiveness, you know, I'm a fan of good, bold colors, but this is not the most attractive thing in the world. The logo is not the most attractive. The A with the wings is pretty doggone cool. I like that. But the green jacket itself is not, and like I say, you spend time trying to figure out what that thing on its head is, right? Is it a crown? What is that, right? It's not the greatest thing. Uh, but the A bounces it back up to at least an average. And IDing the logo with a name, it's a green jacket. They're showing a Hornet or a yellow jacket with that's all green now, right? It fits. It's above average for that. And in the end, although I'm not a huge fan of Augusta's reworking, it got a 3.6, right? Um, Pulled up a lot by the fact that the A with the wings on it is pretty cool. And then we get to the Ruidiso Osos, which is in the Pecos League, right? This is a relaunch of a team that had been down for a while. I don't know how long they've been shut down, but it's a relaunch of this team. The name, which Osos, as I understand it, is Spanish for bear, and it's a play off the name of the city, the town. It's pretty cool. I like it. It plays well. I just think it's a good name, right? The color scheme, the kind of orange and brown, plays well. It's good. It's a good color scheme, and it's just good. Okay, but a little bit above average. The hat. I went and looked at the hat. The hat is the bear with the growl on its face, which is cool. It's not a kiddie friendly logo. It is a logo with attitude, which you don't see much anymore. So I think this is going to be a really good hat, and I like it a lot. And so it was above average. The attractiveness overall, some problems with the way when they write out the name, it doesn't work so well. But the logo, the bear logo is very good, right? Yes, I understand it's not super professionally done, et cetera, et cetera. This is the Pecos League, right? But it's still a really good logo. It kind of averages out. So, and then, IDing the name with the logo, Osos, bear, it's there, you got it. It works. It's not a 5 out of 5, but it's a solid 4, probably a 4 plus. In the end, the Ruidoso Osos gets a 4.6, making it a full point higher than the Green Jackets, and my best logos of the new year. That's what I think about everything. As always, leave comments below. If you like this, hit like. If you like everything you're seeing here, hit subscribe and then go watch everything 9 million times and get all your friends to watch them too, because that's the only way I will ever make money under YouTube's new monetization rules. And beyond that, I've just got one thing left to say to you. Go watch some minor league sports.